Hi guys, this is R.A. Sweeney again, here to talk to you about another prayer from the book Prayers from the Time of Jesus. We've been working through in the last two videos the bedtime blessings, and I'd mentioned that these are the prayers that you pray right as you're getting ready for bed, and I'd mentioned that we split it up into three videos. You'll notice in your book that the spacing kind of breaks it up a little bit into three chunks, and so we talked through those first two chunks, and now we're going to get into that last chunk. So in Hebrew, this chunk of the bedtime blessings would be Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu, melech ha'olam, hamapil chevli shena al ine, ut numa al apape, uichir ratzon milfanika, ya Elohi, uelohi avote, שתשכיבני לשלום ותעמידני לשלום. בידך אפקיד רוחי, פדית אותי, ya el emet. And so in English, that would be, Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of all creation, the one who causes the bands of sleep upon my eyes and slumber upon my eyelids. May it be the delight to your face, Lord my God and the God of my fathers. Let me lie down for the night to shalom, which is safety or peace or integrity, and let me arise to shalom. In your hand I entrust stewardship of my spirit. You have loosed me, Lord God, trustworthy. And so you can see the English there, I kind of embellished it a little bit, tried to make it sound a little bit more like what I think the Hebrew means, but it's not a very great literal translation. I embellished it a little bit to try to make it make more sense. So it starts out with this idea, the body starts out at least with this idea of God causing the bands of sleep on your eyes and slumber on the eyelids. I called it deep slumber just to call a little bit more attention to. It's not, this could be like taking a quick nap. This could be like, I am exhausted and I'm going to crash. But the idea is you can think about the times when you are really tired and it just feels like your eyes are weighed down and you can't keep them open. I think that's really what it's referencing. It's the bands that just cause my eyes to close so that I go to sleep, because sleep is a part of the blessing that God has gifted humanity with, and with most creatures that He's made. And so it's bringing that idea of God is the one that when I'm getting tired, when I can't stay awake, when I am going to that really vulnerable state of being asleep, that He's the one who's putting me in that position, and I can trust it because I know He's a good God. He's a trustworthy God. He's a God who loves me. And so as I go to that time where maybe I've got things to do, but I need to sleep, or maybe I'm not in an environment that I feel real safe in, but I'm going to be sleeping here for the night, or whatever the case may be. It's recognizing as I become very vulnerable, it's God who puts me in that position because He wants me to trust Him. We talked about in one of the previous prayers this word delight, which delight, here it's ratzon, but a synonym of that is Eden, but it's the desires, it's the things that are pleasing. And in a lot of these prayers I've talked about, before your face, to your face, of your face, really it's a Hebrew idiom of, if I bring something to your face, I'm just putting it in front of you. I'm showing it to your face, something along those lines. But it's, may it be pleasing to you, Lord my God and the God of my fathers, or may it be something that, when I bring it to you, when I set it before you, that brings you delight. So that sort of idea. But then I really like this idea as we're getting ready for bed, we're talking about, God putting us in this place of being vulnerable. It's you're my God. We just talked about that in the Shema, that I trust you as my God because you've rescued me out of that former existence of death and imprisonment and slavery, and you've brought me into this life of abundance and generosity and mercy. And so you're my God. I'm going to enter trusting because you're my God, but you're also the God of my fathers. And in Hebrew, the idea of fathers, you see Jesus talk about it when his mom and his brothers come and they're like, "Hey, Jesus, your mom and your brothers are out here." And he's like, "No, my family are the people who follow God alongside of me." Jesus says that the Pharisees, who were from the line of Jacob, he says that their real father is the enemy, the Satan, because that's who they take after. They're not following in the family of Israel. They're following after the Satan, he was saying. So it's saying, I can look all the way back to Moses. I can look all the way back to Abraham, to Noah, whatever the case may be. I can look at everyone else who's ever trusted you, and they've had to go through this as well. So I can enter this vulnerable state. I can enter the darkness, which, again, in the Hebrew context would potentially be problematic, maybe be less safe, and also represents kind of that reversal of day one of creation. I can enter that trusting you because you've been my God and you've been the God of everyone all the way back through time, and I can trust that evidence. And so it's saying, when I get those bands of sleep, let me lie down for the night. And the word there isn't to, like settle down and build a house here and dwell here forever. It's the idea of a very temporary lodging for the night. So let me lie down for the night in shalom. And we've talked about shalom as well, but it's integrity, it's peace, it's security, it's having all your needs met. It's all those things brought into one. And so I called it peace and safety because I think that's really the parts of shalom that this prayer was trying to activate, but it really covers all those ideas. So let me lie down for the night in safety, in peace, where I'm not worried about things. Let me lie down for the night, maybe with a full belly, having my needs met in that way, in a place that's going to be warm and dry. And all those things come together in that word shalom. Really, shalom is the idea of what the seventh day when God rested. It's the idea of things are complete and I have what I need and things are really going well. So it's let me lie down for the night with shalom, and then let me arise with shalom. And I added arise in the morning just to kind of, because I added lie down for the night. The word doesn't mean for the night, but it carries that idea of just this temporary sleeping. And then arising, I wanted to kind of put those two opposite each other. So it's lying down for the night, arising in the morning. And then I had to translate the last few lines a little bit differently because without a lot of explanation and getting really wordy, I didn't think it made sense. So it goes to, in your hand, I entrust stewardship of my spirit. So I translated it a little bit different with in your hand, you're watching over my spirit, which is true. But the idea here is actually, I'm giving my spirit into your hand for you to watch over. And we talked about that, I think, with the Mode Ani prayer, or maybe one of the other prayers. There's this idea that as I'm falling asleep, my spirit is leaving my body. It's going back to God so that He can do whatever He wants with it. And the Mode Ani prayer acknowledges, like, hey, God refreshed it and gave my life back to me. But at night, it's just saying, I'm giving it to you and I'm trusting you with it. So it was a little hard to translate all of that concisely into an action that I'm doing, but really, in your hand, you watch over my spirit means I'm giving it to you to please watch over for the night. It's I'm entrusting you to be the steward of my spirit while it's out of my body and I'm sleeping. And again, I don't necessarily think that our spirit leaves our body, but it is this idea of while I'm unconscious and sleeping, and if you're like me, sleeping pretty hard and dead to the world, I'm entrusting that you're going to take care of me while I am in that vulnerable state. Um, then we came to another line that was, you have loosed me, which in English, it's like, that makes absolutely no sense. But the word padita means you have loosed. And so what that's referencing in the context and the way this word gets used, it's the idea of letting something out of a cage or untying something. So it could be you see like dogs that are chained up, and it could be like that idea of like cutting that chain, or taking the chain off, and so it's now loose. It's freed from that captivity, or opening up a cage so that whatever was caged is able to get out. It could be something's tied up and you cut the bonds, but it's really this idea of I am not free. I don't have that freedom. I am in this enslaved sort of state, and you've pulled me out of that snare. You've loosed that, and so I chose to call it "You've loosed the cords that bound me." I've spent a lot of time in the Psalms when I was preparing for this, and that's a pretty common idea of the binding fetters, and God's the one who comes in and sets us free from that. And so I kind of followed from the Psalms a little bit there. You have loosed the cords that bound me, but it actually says just "You've loosed me." So um, I wanted to add a little bit there. And then it ends with Lord God trustworthy. And I changed that to Lord the God we can trust, because that's really what this whole prayer is about. And it's faithful to the language. The word emet is more. We often translate it as truth, but it really means like dependability and stability. So um, um, it goes back to, is this something that if I step on it, it looks safe, but is that giving me a true picture of safety, or is it a false sense of safety? So it's more of that trustworthy. If I step on it, can I trust that it's going to hold me? If I have a foundation, is it stable? And it's kind of that like foundation-y, architecture-y, stability sort of language there. And so it's saying, God, you're the kind of God that is trustworthy. You're the kind of God that we do trust. And so it's bringing all that together. So I'm giving you my spirit because you've already set me free. I trust you. You are trustworthy. So here's my spirit. I'm going to bed now. And so that's how the evening prayers end. You can see that I referenced a couple Psalms, and those Psalms really just are the language that this uses. There at the end, some of those lines about God being the God that we can trust comes right out of the Psalms. Setting us free, I pulled that from the Psalms as well, just to reference. Like, that's where this sort of language comes from, is from a couple of those Psalms. So that is the end of the bedtime blessings. Between this and the previous two videos, we've got the whole of the bedtime blessings. So I hope you appreciate them. Hope they were a blessing to you, and stay tuned, and we'll move into some of the other prayers that we've got here in Prayers from the Time of Jesus. Thank you.